Thank you for being here. It's my pleasure to welcome you all. My name is Stephanie Shivers. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer, Vice President of Program Development here at CaringKind. And we are thrilled that you all are here to hear this first time inaugural event for To Whom I May Concern with this particular group of people. I'm going to ask you all to please, if you haven't done it already, to silence your phones. And that means off, please. I know I have mine, emergency contacts, and so I've got 2 kids who can reach me at any time. That's not a good idea, right? So if you could do that, that would be great. When you came in on your chairs, there is a card that I'm going to ask you to take out now. And if you can look at the front side of this card, there should be a pen for you all. You get a little homework today. We're going to ask you, if you don't have a card or you need a pen, just raise your hand and we'll bring you one. Okay. We'd like you to just pause for a moment and think. And we'd like you to write down 3 words that come to mind when you think about someone living with mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, or another form of dementia. If you could just write those 3 words down on the front of that card, we'd be grateful. And then you can tuck that card away until later. There are no right or wrong answers, and you won't be tested on this. Today's event is called To Whom I May Concern, which is the brainchild of a woman named Maureen Matthews. It's an interactive group workshop for individuals living beyond their diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, or another dementia. Over the course of 10 to 12 weekly meetings, two group facilitators guide discussions around the real-life experiences of the group members. Those stories and experiences are then crafted into a script that's co-written with the individual group members. Each script is unique, but they reflect common themes of courage, sadness, adaptation, insight, humor, and hope. Today, you'll be hearing the script created by our most recent group who created the script with the support of Olivia Cohen, who's here, and Rochelle Matarazzo, who's over there. And what you need to understand is that what you're about to hear are the real life experiences of these group members and the brave people sitting here before you. You will hear their words woven into this creative production. It's truly a privilege for all of us to hear these truths shared with courage, humility, and vulnerability. So please send your encouragement, support, positive energy, and prayers forward. I will note the tissues are available at each of the ends of your rows. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Gary, Ronnie, Adrian, and Michael. Listen now to their true tales. Ladies and gentlemen, To Whom I May Concern.
Appointment 11:15.
Work in the garden.
Electric bill due.
Refill prescriptions.
Feed the goats at 9 a.m.
Go to the doctor again. Dentist 3 p.m.
FaceTime with my grandson.
Take a nap.
Listen to music. Check meds.
Dinner plans with friends, 7:30 p.m.
Paint a canvas.
Visit the grandkids. Go for a walk.
Cognitive stimulation group, 1 o'clock. Whoa. Sometimes I think my life has been reduced to calendars and Post-it notes. What was life like before Post-its were invented? Those yellow scraps of paper, they're like my memory these days. They hold important dates, numbers, and appointments. As long as I don't lose them, I'm okay. My memory's not so good. I've really become self-conscious about it. Actually, I'm a bit embarrassed. I wonder if people understand what's been happening to me. I try not to let anyone know, but it takes a lot of energy, and I need my energy. If I could just get across to them, my family, my friends, the people I live with, the people who try to help me, if I could just let them know what it's like to be me these days. Maybe if I wrote a letter, an open, general letter to all those who care about me. Here goes. To whom I may concern, I know you think I've made a mistake. You think I meant to write to whom it may concern, but it's not a mistake. This letter is not about an it, a nameless, faceless object. This letter is about an I, and that is me. And I'm writing to let you know what it's like to be me these days. It's not just any letter to some unknown person or persons, a form letter that complains or advises. And don't worry, it's not going to be one of those general holiday letters either that people send to brag about their, quote, above-average children, hyperactive schedules. No one brags about the way my life has changed. Actually, most people don't even want to let others know about it. We keep quiet about this. You see, I've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Sounds bad, right? Actually, it's a terrible word, losing one's mind. But you see, I haven't lost my mind. I have some problems, yes, but I'm still managing one day at a time. I want to share with you what it's like to live with this terrible disease. Yes, it's a terrible disease, but it doesn't mean my life is terrible. I want so much for you to understand that, because I think it would make you more comfortable when we're together. I can't always find my words when I'm with you in person. Actually, that's part of the problem. Sometimes my mind goes blank, and by the time I find the words, you've already moved on to the next topic. I'm hoping a letter will be a better way to share my thoughts with you. A letter allows me to find the words without losing your attention. So here goes. Let me start at the beginning, which takes me back to the first days of memory tests, CT scans. Those were scary times. I've spoken to many others who've gone through the same thing, and for all of us, getting a diagnosis was the beginning of a new chapter in our lives.
Hear me, myself, and I. When the changes first started, I didn't take much notice. I had Addie, the children, my favorite books to read. What more could I ask? I went along with the tide. I preferred to be in the present and live in the moment. My amazing wife, Addie, made the doctor's appointments, set me up for my Zoom meetings, and in return, I generously have told her how lucky she is to have me to take care of her. I give her something to do. I know I'm joking, but sometimes all you can do is to make humor out of this situation. Because in all honesty, I know something is happening, something is changing, and I don't know how to, excuse me, to address it. Hopefully writing this letter to myself is where to begin to address the missing parts.
Dear students, in an odd way, I want to thank you. If I hadn't been doing testing to assess learning disabilities and measure your progress, it could have been 2 or 3 more years until I had something measurable or tangible to explain the changes that were occurring within me. God blessed me with a high IQ and a passion for learning, which led me to a 15-year second career as a high school teacher, first in mathematics and later in special education. I loved teaching, and the front row seat it gave me in your academic journey and in your lives. Sadly, it was as teacher that I first noticed something was terribly wrong. My ability to organize and hold on to information. Sorry. To give clear explanations, to learn new things, and to speak without stumbling over my words began to slip. It was embarrassing and terrible. It dawned on me that if I were to take the same evaluations of learning disabilities that I was giving you, my own performance would have been dismal. I know you may not have noticed what was happening, but I surely did. The symptoms were subtle until they weren't. I stood confidently in front of you, teaching from my notes, while I held on to them for dear life, newly dependent on notes to do a job that used to come naturally. I missed one of your annual IEP meetings, the most important and prepared event of the year. I'm lucky I wasn't fired when I never showed up to the conference room full of people waiting for me. And so I went for my own testing, and the results confirmed my fears. I painfully realized that I could no longer teach you. Not a day goes by that I don't think of you and mourn the loss of what was so much more than a career.
Dear Backpack, the beginning of my journey with Alzheimer's started with you 12 years ago. You joined me on a trip with my wife to Bologna, Italy. I took you with me to go exploring, and after a day of sightseeing, I came home, went to dinner, and it wasn't until the next morning that I realized I didn't have you, my backpack, with me. As someone who has a history of not forgetting you was the moment everything changed. I was devastated. Still, something didn't feel right, so I went to see my doctor for an evaluation. Those tests with the boxes and circles were easy for me. I tested well, and results came back as, quote, highly functioning. But I was not happy with the results. Ironically, I was not happy with the positive results because something was still wrong. I went back to the doctor, this time for a spinal tap. So I said, well, I loved the movie. How bad could the procedure be? But the spinal tap didn't give me a definitive answer. They told me to wait. It took 6 years of testing and appointments with 4 different neurologists before finally someone said, you have Alzheimer's. And then I didn't want to say, I told you so, but I knew the symptoms were not just from the wine I drank while in Italy or jet lag. It was something within me. So you see, dear Backpack, while you function as something practical for most of the world, for me, you represent a profoundly personal mark in my life. In total, it's been 7 years with this diagnosis and 12 years of symptoms. Hey, look, it's my Alzheimer's bar mitzvah year. What I am.
Dear Balance, my memory's never been great because of my ADD, but you, my reliable friend, have always been on point. I've led a very active life, participating in running marathons and skiing. It was because of my sudden, unsteady sense of gravity with you, Balance, that I decided to seek medical attention.
Several years ago, I was moving from one apartment to another, and at one point, I completely lost memory of the entire event. Over the next 10 or 15 minutes, all the details slowly returned like a camera coming into focus. In retrospect, these were probably early indications of my illness. Looking back, there were a couple of events that gave me concern, such as memory lapses, a diagnosis of TIA, and a moment where my car was disabled and I couldn't figure out the logistics of getting back home. My family held a meeting because a colleague of mine was concerned, but I, like shingles, didn't care. You see, Balance, you were the signal that alerted me to my health issues. I want to thank you because without your wavering presence, I might have not recognized anything was wrong, as others did. Now I want to maintain your equilibrium for as long as time will allow.
To whom I may concern, yes, the diagnosis and evaluations are difficult times that don't go away. They're confusing and painful. Alzheimer's or FTD or whatever you have, turn your life upside down. One day you're feeling at the top of your game and then it's gone. In the days leading up to the diagnosis and for a long time afterwards, you're pretty much still in shock. You want answers, but at the same time, you don't really want to know. And many people in the end, they only get vague diagnosis.
Could it be a symptom of my chronic Lyme disease?
Might be depression or ADD or getting older,
Can't be completely sure it's Alzheimer's.
etc., etc., etc. It feels like a crapshoot. They give you a handful of pills and a new appointment in 6 months. 6 months. My life has just gone out the window, and they say, "I'll see you in 6 months." What do I do now?
We adapt. Actually, some of us adapt old school strategies to make them work for us now, or we use new technology. Everyone finds a way to cope. I've heard some amazing stories from people who are going through the same thing as I am. Many of them are on this stage now.
Dear morning coffee, I used to joke that I needed you to start my day and survive. But now I actually depend on you, and in new ways. My body has been programmed to consume you, which I take to my advantage nowadays. My sweet husband brews you every morning, and I am led by your delicious aroma into the kitchen, where I find you waiting for me, alongside my medication bottles and the pad of paper I use for the daily to-do list that reminds me to take medication after coffee. How thoughtful of you to partner with my medications and to-do list. Otherwise, I'd forget about them if they hadn't hitched a ride to my morning coffee routine. You give me the power to tend to my outside garden with its brown, earthy soil sprinkled with your coffee grounds for good health. You give me the power to keep up with my personal care and to do household projects. And you give me the energy to pursue new and old interests as I lose other skills. You accompany me as I count my blessings. Thanks to you, I've also found common ground beyond the diagnosis with new friends and peers such as Michael, who sits beside me today. We've talked about his coffee business, our favorite brew, and how I can get more of you. Speaking of which, I finished the last batch of those coffee beans you sent me, Michael. So can I get another shipment of them?
Coming right up.
Dear Alzheimer's, we have joined forces in some way, but I want to make one thing clear. You are one aspect of my life, but you are not my life. You have stopped me from reading the newspaper. You have not stopped me from reading the newspaper every morning, although my mind does wander off a little more. After I'm done reading, I then do the daily crossword, which I think takes you and my wife by surprise. I meditate once a week. That keeps me in good spirits. It clears you from my mind. I try to find humor in you, because with the right attitude, I'd like to think of this whole thing as a joke. But yes, I'm not the Superman I pretend to be. You scare me sometimes. I would rather not acknowledge you, so I don't have to be fearful and defend myself. I don't think about what holds me back. I certainly won't let you hold me back. I'm living in the present, and you are just along for the ride.
Dear technology, I want to express my appreciation for you, how much you've advanced in communication, electronics, medicine, and in our daily lives. You've made it easier for people with memory loss to accomplish day-to-day tasks. In the past, I would write everything down, carry around multiple pieces of paper, which would often become crumpled and lost in my pocket. If I forgot the paper, I would forget important tasks like picking up groceries. Now I carry my phone with me everywhere I go, which helps me to stay organized with lists. My calendar app helps to keep me on schedule, and it's right at my fingertips. I use a medication tray with compartments for each day of the week to keep track of my medications, but that alone isn't enough. I often forget to check the tray and end up missing doses. With the health app on my phone, keeps a schedule of my meds and uses notifications that won't stop until you acknowledge you've taken your meds. Game changer. I may not be a tech expert, but I believe in apps, and I hope that they're here to stay to help us when our memories fail.
Dear Walking, I hate to admit it, but until the last few years we were completely unfamiliar with each other. A lifetime of marathons, bike riding, skiing, you were just too slow for me. However, maybe slow is what I needed. When I began to lose my balance, you stood strong. When I looked for more things to do, you filled my day. We have our walks in Central Park, to the route from the Upper West Side to CaringKind, to taking the long way to doctor's appointments, or going for a stroll with my grandson. We're still averaging 3 to 4 miles a day, every day. And while the activity is not at the same pace it used to be, you're still helping me stay active, not only physically, but mentally. Now that I'm not rushing, running, or sprinting through life, I am seeing and appreciating everything around me, one step at a time. I live in the present. The beat will go on, one foot in front of the other.
To whom I may concern. So we're doing the best to adapt, to continue living our lives, that the ground under our feet is shifting. Those early days are difficult, not knowing, suspecting. For some people, the awareness came quickly because they already had a family member with cognitive loss, a mother, father, or a sister. Hard to fool yourself when you've already lived through it with a loved one or a friend. But even if you know what Alzheimer's, FTD, or Lewy body cognitive loss is about, living day to day is a real challenge. Forgetting, that's a big part of it. Thoughts come a bit slower, words missing, your mind going blank. Somebody summed it up so well in one little phrase.
Just
give me a minute.
A minute.
Dear Tess and kids, I know we're all impacted by this diagnosis. Although things seem to be fine at the moment, I understand that your biggest concern is how the disease will progress. I notice that you're trying different activities to cope, but I can tell that you're still terrified underneath it all. And Greg, even though you're usually not demonstrative, I've noticed that you've been giving me extra hugs, kisses, and even smiles lately. Maybe you're starting to realize that there is a beginning and an end, and that I'm traveling toward the end.
Dear Addie, 60 years.
Yep.
60 years we've been married, and it's been effortless. It was to say, time flies when you're having fun. But I prefer fun. It's fun when it's flying by with you by my side. Feel my lifeline and my bedrock. Without you, I would have been sunk. And I feel I would not have made it in a lot of ways. I'm sorry I can't give you more support in our lives. Is that I'm slipping away and not able to be the companion or reliable partner I want to be. But you bring me hope. You help me through all of this. Your warmth, your humor, perception, and fortitude keep me afloat. You are really an amazing person. I'm very fortunate to have you as my partner in life. And now 2 terrific kids. I want them to know as well. All these words are true for me, and that will never slip away.
Dear new operating system, aka my brain. Sometimes this diagnosis feels like I'm a computer that unexpectedly and against my will had an update to the only operating system I've ever known. You've made some big changes in me, and boy, it's been some ride learning how to work with your refurbishes. The biggest impact I've noticed is the change is not just mine, it impacts the whole family unit. My wife and daughters also have had to adjust since they were also very used to my previous operating system. Since you are a new operating system, you didn't come with a manual. And I've been doing my best to educate others on how to help me. I tell them to introduce themselves again and again. At work, I always make sure to bring someone along who can remember to me the names of those who work with in the coffee industry. I understand that my operating system may change again in the future. But for now, I'm doing everything I can to keep up with Michael OS X, running smoothly with the help of those around me.
My dear Albert, I love our nightly routine of watching movies after dinner. But as you know, watching movies is hard nowadays. Following the plot, confusing the characters. Heaven forbid we watch a movie where the characters have an accent. Yet you sit there, watching with me, with the closed captions on, and answering all my questions patiently throughout the movie so that I can understand it better. Patience. A word you exemplify every day through your loving actions for me. And yet I know it does not come easily. We're two confident, intelligent, high-performing spouses, married 40 years. And now that is all being tested. As I am losing my memory and cognitive ability, and you are losing your life partner. I think back to the conversation we had a while back where you said, given our age difference, I always thought you would outlive me. And now that might not be the case. It's unfair. But we are adapting. You are adapting. So let's enjoy these movies, moments, and everything in between, and not let this diagnosis negatively intervene.
To whom I may concern, the words and memories come slower or not at all. This disease has a way of silencing you. The plaques and tangles in my brain are doing their job, whatever that is. We're not the only one changing. Dementia has a way of changing the people around us too. We have friends and loved ones, and even healthcare professionals who treat us differently when they learn that we have cognitive changes. I may not wear a sign around my neck, but I do wear my orange CaringKind hat. I feel very comfortable sharing my diagnosis, but others have different experiences. This disease can bring out the best in people and sometimes, sadly, the worst. I've heard stories that really warm your heart and others that make you cry.
Dear Select You, you are my family and dear friends. I want you to know that I'm very particular about with whom I share my diagnosis. It's not something I entrust to everyone. The length of time I've known you doesn't make me more inclined to share. I hope you understand that I've chosen to share with you, my select few, because I trust you. I believe you'll treat me with the respect and dignity that I deserve. Thank you for being there for me and for supporting me. Hey, Gary, you tell others about your memory loss?
That's a good question. I don't remember. There aren't many I talk to about it. But you know, maybe I'll write this letter for my kids. Dear kids, I don't think I've ever had a proper conversation with you about my Alzheimer's. But I'd like that to change. Then again, who knows? Maybe I did. And I can't remember. So I want to make sure that I share some important things with you now, in this moment. I want to tell you, and it's a gift, that we talk about this. That I trust you with this. I trust you that you will continue to love me. Even though I'm not me, not really me, even though I am. I want you to be able to claim your own strength and ability. And to know that you are stronger than I am. I have faith, hope, and belief in you. I'm not a religious person, you know, but it's something to think about. We must say the things we want to say to those we love the most. Who knows? Maybe those weekly meditation sessions at the Rubin Museum have inspired me. That's why I wanted and share these thoughts and words with you. So let's talk about this more, if you want.
Dear people of New York, you can't miss me when I'm wearing my bright orange CaringKind hat. Its distinct hue sits high on my head. Often, someone will stop by and ask me, "What's that hat?" And I'll tell them about CaringKind and who they help. And it's a conversation starter. I may be a little different than the others, but I believe it's important to tell everyone about my diagnosis. I will always say, well, except for the Alzheimer's, I'm doing great. And even with it, I'm doing well. It's all relative. Every day I have the same plan. Wake up, and then try to continue to be myself for as long as possible. So if you're in New York and happen to spot me navigating around this concrete jungle, feel free to stop by and ask me about the hat.
Dear elephant in the room, you've taken many shapes and forms throughout my dementia journey, but you fill the most space in the how are you doings that I often fail to hear from those that I've shared my diagnosis with. When I share this information, it's because I'm honoring the relationship with those close to me. I entrusted them with the knowledge of this life-altering diagnosis. And that means I'm comfortable with having the conversation that I need to talk about it rather than pretend it's not happening. And then for them to act as if the conversation never happened? Can't they just ask me how I am? Do they care about my loss? When my new normal isn't acknowledged, I feel insignificant and abandoned. And I'm left to suffer in silence with you, elephant in the room. I mean, I've probably said, "How are you?" 1,000,000 times in my life without really meaning those words. We all do that, right? But in this new stage in my life, the words need to carry the significance. And when I don't even hear them in conversation, the message behind that screams. So when someone actually asks how I am doing, who means it, it is such a beautiful thing. And it makes the burden of you so much lighter. I'm not asking them to carry any weight, but just to walk beside me in this journey. And yes, to acknowledge what is happening. Because no offense, elephant in the room, it's not I who invited you.
Kindness can ease the pain of an embarrassing situation. Humor helps too. When I told a friend that I had this memory problem, came back with a quick joke. "Don't you owe me $20? Friends can be great.
I like to think we have a built-in get out of jail free card. Our memory loss can get us out of sticky situations.
Only if we remember to use it.
Well, in this group, you're in good company. No need for the get out of jail card here.
I couldn't agree more. Now, let's get back to the letters. To whom I may concern. Some doors open, others close, but throughout it all, we hold on to hope.
Dear Ronnie 2.0, It's been a renaissance year for you as you've been exploring this new chapter of your life since retirement. However, here are some rainy day reminders. You're doing all you can do to slow down the progress of this thing, keeping up with the plethora of doctors, meds, walkings, participating in life, amping up your social life with family and friends, and occasionally laughing at how funny the things you do and say seem to be. I feel like I'm in an Abbott and Costello movie, and I'm Costello. In spite of everything, you remain optimistic. 90 years old, and you've already been on this earth almost 2 decades longer than your parents. You may outrun the disease before it gets worse. The diagnosis has changed you in some ways. You're always too self-critical, but you've become more passionate, and it suits you. It seems like, dare you say it, you like yourself better. You're in this and trying every day, and all you need to do is continue to stay in the here and now.
Dear morning newspaper, while I read you every day, you are often depressing. I ask myself, what's in the newspaper today? I hope it's the same thing as yesterday, because unfortunately, it looks like it's getting worse. The bad guys always seem to be winning. However, just the other day, you came across the ARP Bulletin's March issue, and the cover story was "The Future of Alzheimer's: Why Doctors Have New Hope and What That Means to You." The article gave me hope, it gave me hope as it does for the future of Alzheimer's. The fact that they're doing a story on this is a great start, but I don't dwell on how it's going to affect me in the future. I just hope there is a future.
Dear future generations, it's hard to say, but so much has gotten better, while in so many ways I've gotten worse. Science, medicine, technology are continuing to advance, and with these new advances, that means more accurate testing and early detection, clinical trials and medications which were not available before are now offering hope. And organizations like CaringKind provide valuable programs and resources for people with dementia and their caregivers. I believe that eventually the world of Alzheimer's and dementia will be drastically changed for the better to those affected by it. To future generations, you are on a path of seeing real difference in this landscape. It is important to know we are more than just a diagnosis or a label. And even though parts of us forget, that doesn't mean we are forgotten. We have an opportunity to get involved and learn more, even just by hearing our stories here today. I always say that a good day starts with waking up. And for me, that means finding ways to participate, to share knowledge, to educate others. I do this to contribute to a better future. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and I know my future is unknown to me. But it's certain that this world will be inherited by future generations, and you can make a difference and be part of creating a better future for those who have Alzheimer's.
Dear garden, you are my labor of love and my beautiful story. As I plant in the present, you are my plans for the future. When I first learned the sad truth of my illness, I expanded you further, adding new beds, extending the others. This way, I know you will outlive me as I decline, one blossoming flower at a time. my garden. I tend to you daily as if you were my child. In you, I carve traces of my identity so that when I no longer recognize myself, you'll still hold me close. When my husband, my sons, and my friends walk among the sea of daffodils and daylilies, hostas and hydrangeas, flowering shrubs and row upon row of berry bushes of all types, they will feel me and find me there. You see, I've always thought of myself as a soul having a human experience, not as a human with a soul. And I trust that one day my soul will dance among your branches, savoring the heady aroma of lavender and singing along to the beautiful buzz of the bees and the birds calling to each other. I've always defined myself by the different chapters in my life, and you, my garden, you're my endless book. You have given me passion after diagnosis, preparedness as I become more impaired, and an epilogue to believe in as your story flourishes, intertwined with mine.
To whom I may concern, what more can I tell you? Let me just end by going back to the eye of your concern. You can see from our stories that we are ordinary people trying to make the most of a difficult situation. We don't want to disappear. We're doing all the things experts have told us we should be doing. We exercise our minds and our bodies. We keep up with research. We take pills. We also try to forget. I know that may sound funny since forgetting is at the heart of our problem, but we try to forget about our illness so we can reclaim and embrace our lives. Give us some relief or respite. We do not want this to define us. We are more than our misery. And on that note, let me end this letter. Enough about me. How you doing these days? Let's get together. Come on, thanks for listening and for your concern. Fondly, Michael.
Gratefully, Ronnie.
Hopefully, Adrienne.
Affectionately, Gary.
You're going to make us all
Thank you, everybody. Please take a seat. The air is coming back on.
This way.
Have a drink of water. I'd like you to take those cards out that we started with. And I'd like you to flip them over to the back side now. And now I'd like you to write down 3 words that come to mind when you think of someone living with mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, or dementia.
Good.
And while you write your words, I want to introduce the other co-facilitator and writer, Rochelle Malrazzo. And I'm Olivia Cohen. And we'd like to invite you to join us in a talk-back discussion today. So, Rochelle and Anna Bess, Lady in Pink and Lady in Polka Dots over here, just raise your hand And we will have one of them come over to you with the microphone for our talkback portion today.
So we're going to start by asking anybody who's willing to share, what words did you have before and after? What changes did you notice? Anyone willing to share? Good. And then we've got one over there and says, often from walks.
I started with frustration, sad, and service.
It's done.
I started with frustration to be dark.
Good. Yeah, try sir.
I started with frustration,
There we go.
sad, and service. And then after I had hope, love, and forget.
See. Answer.
I'm not speak real close into the mic. I want to thank all four of you, and what I thank you for is how I can turn over my card now. It started with loss, isolation, and slow, and ended with hope, make the most of each day, and acknowledge. Thank you very much.
See, why do you
Oh yeah. I started with frustrations, alive inside, and dependent.
Could you just say it again?
I started with frustration, alive inside, and dependent. And I ended it with alive inside too. That's which is the name of my next film. The first one was Alive Inside, and this one's called Alive Inside 2. It's about bringing young people to work with people who are going through Alzheimer's. And you guys are so beautiful, all of you. Yeah, it's such a...
Some other words over here. Who else has words to share?
We have some over here.
I started with stressful, isolating, frightening. And you all made me change to courage, creative, alive.
That's right.
At I start, or not, messed up. Then
Gregory's a singer, so we don't want to give him a microphone without, it's live because we could dress in the song here. Yep. Nope. Okay, take you now.
There. Anxiety, loss, vulnerability, and afterwards, because of your beautiful words and stories today, resolve, centeredness, and gratitude, which were all surprising. And I just want to thank you all, as everyone else has, for sharing your individual stories. I work in care, and I treat every person as an individual, but even though you do that, it's still so empowering to see it and to see people willing to open up and to see the variety of how people approach these challenges and rise above them. Thank you.
This is the third group that we've actually had do Whom I May Concern. This one was Rochelle and Olivia. Pam, who's sitting in the front here, and Gregory have done a group, and Anne Penny, who's behind, has also done a group. So we have a number of facilitators in the group here. Somebody else want to share their words? Did I see a couple of other hands? Keep your hands up till we bring the microphone over to you, and so we can see where we are. Right.
Hi. I started with frightened, wary, and insecure. And then it changed to hope, courage, but since the elephant was still in the room, heartache.
My original words were scared, overwhelmed, and tired. And consistent with several other people, I said brave, hopeful, and strong.
Thank you. What was surprising about this experience? Anybody want to share an idea of what was surprising to you? Yeah, there's one there.
It was I found it very emotional and wonderful. And I guess I just feel so much more empathy and insight to what it's like for you. And I find that very moving and helpful.
Right, too.
The vitality and the individualism and the creativity that you all have manifested was joyous.
Anybody else?
Check out Camille. Maybe it's not really surprising, but seeing the differences in how you are all dealing with many consistencies as well. But just seeing the different experience that we were having and how you're dealing with it as well, I think this kind of interesting to me and helpful to me to see. There's not one way to deal with it.
There's not one way. When those of us who are kind of in this business, what we often are saying is, you met one person with Alzheimer's or dementia, you met one person. Yeah. Because there's such variation, even though there are certainly common experiences. Pam?
So this time I'm in the audience here, I got to see a whole new story. And the four of you, so beautiful. What I'm surprised about is how the families kept it together at all. Because, wow, I mean,
Look at that.
amazing. And so much love, palpable. It's the better elephant in there.
Debbie, I'm practice.
Thank you for bringing the elephant into the open.
What surprised me was how incredibly well written everything was, and not because you have Alzheimer's, just because good writing is really hard. And it was just so eloquently said, written and said. So that's all. We have a lot of power.
We had out.
Actually, these are their words from a number of sessions, just put together, curated, and with different themes. And so it's all their words. Michelle and I are just taking all of their words and putting them together. And it's you guys that wrote it.
Good editing.
And you got it right.
That was what you forget.
Goodbye. Yep.
It's okay. I have a brain, but I just don't know how to use it. Which is because I have Alzheimer's. If I didn't have Alzheimer's, I could use it. But anyway, I don't even know what I wanted to say, but anyway, it's been wonderful. All of you, and you particularly.
Olivia and Rochelle, amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. What questions do you have for the group here? Yeah.
I wanted to know the app you were talking about that doesn't let you move on until you actually address. That would be helpful to know.
I'm sorry, I can't react to that.
Okay.
So I think you meant to say, I'd like to know about that app, and if someone could tell me about it, that would be awesome, and I'd like to circle back with you, Michael, so we can figure that out together.
Yes.
Right? I think that's it. Yeah, that is it. Yes, back in the corner here. Eleanor, take the microphone.
Hi, this is Eleanor. I want to thank you again for your bravery, but I also want to thank you for showing everyone that even with Alzheimer's, you can build new friendships, new relationships, and to your point, to your letter, ask me for lunch. Let's go to lunch, let's go to dinner, coffee, and so thank you for confirming that for everyone, so people don't go into isolation.
Thank you.
What other questions do you have? We should have put some plants in the audience for you.
Let's finish.
My question is missing.
That big.
That, yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you very much. You put on a beautiful, earnest, loving presentation. I was just wondering if the families of your families were here in this group and
did they sit through this rehearsal and hear what you had to say, or was this the first time? The first time.
I think it's a combination. So yes, there are some family members in the room, and some of them heard that before it's and that was their choosing.
My family's waiting for the video.
We're all waiting for a live to point out. Any other questions? They're not going anywhere. They're actually duct taped to these chairs so they wouldn't, sit out. So thank you again for being here. I'm going to let Rochelle come up and wrap us up. Yes.
Hello, I figured out how to keep the mic on. So thank you all again for being here. I'm Rochelle, one of the co-facilitators and guiders for this group. Today's event would not have been a success without many of the staff chipping in. Several are listed on the back of your program, and you'll see them mingling around with the CaringKind name tag. Say hi. Yep, that'd be awesome. As most of you know, CaringKind is also a not-for-profit organization. Our programs are offered free of charge through the generosity of our donors and fundraising efforts. Today's program has been partially funded by a grant from the Administration on Community Living. Through this grant, we have been able to expand a number of our early stage and family caregiver services. And if you're interested in learning more about any of our services or free events, such as the museum at Eldridge Street speaking here on May 7th, or the concert with the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra on May 16th, please talk to one of our staff or pick up some flyers on our resource table in the hallway. And you can also visit our website listed in your program or sign up for our emails and newsletters. If you are interested in making a donation to fund future programs and performances like To Whom I May Concern, there is a QR code you can scan in our program to get directly to our donation page on the website, or you can pick up a donation envelope on the resource or check-in table for a cash or check donation. And then one of our biggest events is coming up, the Alzheimer's Walk on Sunday, October 20th in Central Park. Yes. Please join us.
We'll all be wearing orange hats.
Yes. Michael, find Michael. There's the walk hat. So please join us to sponsor Walker. For more information, please visit our website or talk to a staff member about it. And then before you leave, if you could please drop off your cards in the orange basket. We have CaringKind staff members standing by in the back to collect your responses. So again, thank you all. Please give me one more, give them one more. Yeah. Have a good evening and a million tomorrows.